Hello and welcome. We are really excited to have you tune in to our webinar, Transforming Jury Management with Innovation and Technology. My name is Corrine Aycock, and I'll be your host for this event. We recognize the many challenges you face daily, dealing with an overwhelming amount of paperwork, long lines, striving to create diverse and balanced jury pools, and making jury duty a positive experience for citizens. Your dedication to your community and to overcoming hurdles such as technology, compliance, and budget constraints don't go unnoticed. That's why we've brought together two experts who know the ins and outs of jury management and are here to share their insights on how innovation and technology can help. I am so very excited to introduce Adriana Harris, statewide jury program manager for the New Mexico Administrative Office of the Courts, or the AOC as it's referred to. Adriana oversees 76 trial courts. That is 76. And she'll share how implementing a statewide jury management system has positively impacted New Mexico's jury administrators and their citizens. Adriana is extremely data driven, and we're going to dive into that a little bit later. And she's played a key role in making the statewide jury management system implementation a huge success in New Mexico. Today, she'll share these experiences with us, offering valuable lessons learned that can be applied whether you're in a small, medium, or large court. Welcome, Adriana. We are so very glad you could take time out of your schedule to be with us today.
Thank you.
And it's my pleasure to introduce Avenue's Lane Dunn, our rockstar jury product manager. Lane has a 30-year history in this industry, with half of that time dedicated to serving as a fellow court and jury administrator along with you, and the other half of that time helping courts streamline their processes with technology. Lane has two real big passions that fuel her work. One is having served as both a court and jury administrator. She is passionate about driving processes in a simplified, streamlined way to help reduce the demanding roles you face day in and day out and make it easier. And two, Lane's committed to changing the public's perception of serving on jury duty and making it a more positive and pleasant experience. Welcome, Lane. Always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, Lane certainly is a subject matter expert in the industry and here at Avenue. You see, Avenue is the leading provider of software administration solutions, and currently we serve 3,500 state and local governments. We're proud to be driving innovation in jury management with an entire team of industry experts like Lane. It is our ongoing mission to empower those who manage and serve in the jury process, making it more accessible, transparent, and effective. Today, we're diving into the world of jury management, from the challenges faced by administrators, and we're going to learn how New Mexico took its vision and turned it into a reality with innovation and technology. We're going to uncover the benefits and the lessons that can inspire change in your own courts. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, so please use the chat feature and we'll get your questions in. And let's get started. And let's take a moment to dig into what courts and the New Mexico AOC are handling in terms of jury management, which builds the entire foundation for today's conversation. Adriana, again, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Can you please share what the New Mexico AOC is responsible for as it pertains to jury management?
Absolutely. So New Mexico, the Administrative Office of the Courts, we oversee statewide divisions, statewide programs for the whole state of New Mexico. My division is the jury division. So as the jury division, we oversee all courts that handle jury trials. 76 trial courts, which consists of district courts as well as magistrate courts, and we also have one metropolitan court in our big county of Bernalillo County in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We do not handle municipal, as they do not handle jury trials. But being that we are administrators and that we oversee the processes and daily tasks in regard to jury for courts, the courts are mainly responsible for communicating to the jury. What is it that the jurors receive? What should they be in? Do they need to take a cell phone? Do they need a laptop? phones, just giving that communication to the jurors. So the court staff at local courts will either send out documentation, or they will send out links to a website, or they also have their jurors call a coda phone, is what New Mexico calls it, or a message phone. Um, Having all of these availabilities for prospective jurors is nice. However, looking at it from an administrative level, we wanted to standardize that and make things easier for jurors, and more accessible. And so, yeah, a lot of the courts are just responsible for getting that initial communication and then continuing that communication throughout the duration of their term of service.
All right, thank you so much. And Lane, I know you're passionate about this next topic. Can you take us through citizen expectations and the court's responsibilities to its citizens?
Certainly. I think the court has multiple responsibilities when it comes to bringing in their citizens for jury service. Yes, it is an important civic obligation, responsibility, but the courts want to make sure that they are showing their citizens that they are mindful of the time away from their work, away from their families. I think the courts really want to show that they are using jurors' time wisely. Think of the resources too. These are taxpayer dollars that are paying for jury duty. We want to make sure, as court administrators and jury administrators, that we're using people's time wisely, that we're efficiently processing their day, and getting them in and out of the courthouse as quickly as possible while they fulfill their civic obligation.
Yeah, well, and I'm by no means an expert in jury management, but I certainly am a citizen, and I think what citizens do want, and you captured it. People want it fast. People want it to do everything. We want to do everything with our phones. We want it quick, mobile access when and where possible. So thank you for
And
that.
that's very important. I think courts strive to give prospective jurors as much information and the tools they need to do the job before they ever hit the courthouse door. That inures to the benefit of both the citizens and to the court.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at challenges. Throughout history, challenges and the need for improvement have inspired innovation. Adriana, can you take us through the challenges that the New Mexico AOC faced?
Absolutely. So prior to moving to a statewide jury management system, throughout the state, 76 courts, there was probably about 12 different applications scattered around New Mexico. So being at the administrative level, it was really difficult to keep on top of, what system they were using, if they were at all using a system. Were they doing things manually? What kind of processes were being conducted in those courts? What kind of administration was being handled in those courts in regards to jury service? And just how to really gather that information, but also how to help the courts make a more streamlined process, right? Make things easier, not only for jurors, but as well as the staff. So being that administrative office, unfortunately, when we started to do this process in my division, there was only 2 staff. So we were trying to roll out a statewide jury management system to over 200 users throughout the state with 2 staff on board at the administrative level. Implementing was a huge undertaking. However, we were able to accomplish that in 6 months, and I wouldn't say it was 100%, smooth sailing, but we made it happen. Having IT resources was also difficult because that's a different division in AOC, and so we had to come to the table with their deputy directors and just have a discussion on what our expectations were in regards to rolling out a jury management system. As well as the local courts, they were just inundated with paperwork because everything we were doing at the time prior to jury system was just by paper, right? So you send out your questionnaires, then you have to wait for the mailings to come back, and then you have to process those questions, then you have to qualify your jurors, and then they were doing that all by paper. So it was taking a very long time to get qualified panel jurors, doing it just by snail mail. And then throughout the 76 courts, everyone has a different way of doing things. And then you also have different people at the table, right? So you have to include your judges and then the court administrators. And how can we get everyone together to be on the same page and also be accepting of what is to come and the challenges and what we can make happen as a statewide jury management system. And then just keeping with the times. Again, mobile phones are a big thing, like Corinne said, and everyone wants to be able to just do things from their phones or from their laptops or from anywhere that they are. Maybe it be at work, to be able to access the application instead of having to remember to take your paper everywhere you go and fill it out and get to a post office. So it was just trying to bring everyone to the table, get all your important stakeholders, have a discussion, and figure out how we can standardize and make things more streamlined throughout New Mexico.
Well, I imagine just going from, jurors being able to fill out questionnaires on their phones or on their laptops has probably increased the response rate too.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
now it's easier and more convenient for them.
Correct.
Lane,
Yeah.
Lane, from your perspective, having worked with courts all across the country, what challenges do you see that local courts face?
Well, Adriana hit on many of them. When she mentions mailing out questionnaires, think of the staff resources that takes, the duplication of the questionnaires, the stuffing, the mailing, then responding to all of them and managing all of that paper as it comes back to you. It's a heavy burden, and courts have historically and continually today face the challenge of doing more with less. They maybe have new judgeships authorized, but that doesn't always transfer to the court clerk's office. They may not have new staff to manage more judges and more trials. So it's important that technology be implemented to try to help the clerks and the jury staff make the most of the staff they have, even down to staff turnover. You have to retrain new staff as they come on. These are all legitimate challenges that the courts face, along with budgetary constraints and things like that. So it's a serious issue. It's been one for decades, and I don't see it changing anytime soon.
So, and clearly these things can't be fixed overnight. So now Adriana's covered some of the reasons why it can't be fixed quickly earlier too, like limited IT staff resources. Lane, what other roadblocks do courts face when they're trying to improve jury management?
Well, number one, I think courts are trying to change public perception of jury duty. So changing people's hearts and minds about jury duty is always important. They have an opportunity. Courts, often the first interaction with the judiciary is someone serving as a prospective juror. So you have a prime opportunity to respect their time, respect their information, everything that they are bringing to their jury service. One of my most gratifying things as a jury administrator is when somebody would say, I really dreaded this, or I tried to get out of it. But after coming in for jury duty, they felt better about it. And the next time they received a jury summons, they would appear and would not hesitate to do so. I think that's one of the best professional compliments I could have ever received.
That's awesome. Adriana, anything you'd like to add to that?
I think just roadblocks is just having people on board, getting people on board with the moving forward process. No one likes to change. We used to hear all the time in the beginning, why fix something that's not broken? Well, it wasn't necessarily broken. It was just it was more difficult to manage on an administrative level, on a statewide level. And they always knew that, administrative officers of the courts oversaw every other aspect of the court. So jury was always included in that. It just wasn't as detailed included. And we really wanted to just get everyone to the table and be accepting of the change. It's not easy, but they come around and then they appreciate it. And then we're always there to help. It's not like we tell them, hey, we're changing your whole system and your business process, and then once we roll out, you're finished. We won't help you. But no, we have constant, trainings, and we keep in primary contacts with the jury staff. Anytime they need updated information, anytime they need assistance, we're always available to help them.
So, and I'm sure the reduction of paper is huge. What type of paper reduction have you seen?
I would say at least 30%. And to us, that's a big number just because we don't have to worry about jurors being worried about what happens if this paper gets lost that I just answered all these questions for.
Mm-hmm.
So now we can reassure jurors that everything's in a system. And after so many days, we have a statute that after 90 days, they have to be deleted or just be disposed of properly. And so having a system that can do that for us and not having to shred documents all the time is a huge decrease in paper.
I bet. Now that we've tackled the challenges, let's shift our focus and move on to the vision that New Mexico had. Before the New Mexico AOC embarked on implementing a jury management solution for 76 trial courts, clearly there was a vision. Can you take us through what that vision was?
Absolutely. We just wanted to better provide utilization information back to the community as well as to our Supreme Court justices and as well as our judges that were calling in these jurors. So for the administrative office of the courts, our division mainly focuses on utilization and yield data to gather that information to ensure business practices are being followed due to the utilization and yields in these courts. And so we wanted to make things easier. And by making it easier for us, the vision was why not have a statewide, just one system that can produce these reports for us? You know, we just go in there and based on how many jurors have been given attendance, at any moment, the administrative level can run a report statewide and get those numbers. And we're able to do that. And then so when judges ask us, you know, how am I doing with my utilization? You know, because they always get intrigued once you start providing data. That's when it's easier to start changing processes, and it's really helped us to move forward and to standardize a lot more things and make things more fluid for us.
So that's great. And Lane, I know how excited you get when you can improve things for courts and for jury administrators. How excited were you when you got to help like 76 trial courts get more efficient?
It's been an amazing experience, especially and transitioning from a manual process to automation. I can tell you from personal experience, when I first started as a jury administrator, I would spend about 40 hours a month just paying jurors. When we went to an automated system, that went down to about 1 hour per month. So that was a huge benefit.
That's great. So with a clear vision in place, the next step in that whole process was bringing it to life, with innovation and technology playing a crucial role in transforming your ideas into the solutions that can really make a difference for jury management. And so Lane is the expert in the technology aspect. I want to hand things over to you and take us through what a good jury management system looks like.
Certainly. Well, first of all, jury staff, they have a tough job. Consider all of the people that they have to respect and please. They're dealing with large numbers of the public. They also have to interact with the judges. There are attorneys, court administrators. That's a really high pressure job and a lot of people to make happy. So doing all of that manually or inefficiently is going to wear on everybody. So it's imperative that to implement a technological solution, and that will save everybody time, resources that could be perhaps used elsewhere in the court clerk's office. So all of these issues that are called out here as technology solutions, these are all big considerations.
Absolutely. Lane, and I just want to add that even having, as you can see on our screen here, the multilingual was a big thing for New Mexico. We do have a high population of Hispanic ethnicity here in New Mexico. And so being able to have a portal and, you know, anything that's accessible to the jurors in multiple languages is an absolute 100% win for us. And we've been able to accomplish that. And the jurors absolutely love it.
How many languages can the system cover, Lane?
It can cover 6, including English.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And we're currently up to 2 right now, and that's just because we're still moving forward and getting, you know, our feet wet with everything. But it's been great for us.
I bet. I bet that also probably helps the response rate.
Exactly.
Also, reaching more people and probably a more diverse jury pool.
Yep.
I'd like to add, I'd like to add one thing, and Adriana touched on this a little bit, but the questionnaires. There are courts that often spend days in advance of a trial collating, copying paper questionnaires. Then they have to put them in a binder and make 6, 8 copies for the parties, however many parties are. That's a huge workload for the jury staff. Consider downloading the questionnaires after they've been completed by the online portal and transferring those to something like a tablet. So you can hand those tablets to court and counsel for voir dire, and then you don't have to deal with days and days of your staff being in front of the copy machine, disseminating the paper. It's a game changer.
So take us through, Lane, to the case and panel creation.
Well, as I mentioned, jury staff, they have a pretty heavy lifting job, and no more so than on the morning of jury check-in. So when jurors are checking in, it's imperative that that process go quickly and smoothly. You have judges waiting in the courtroom, the attorneys, the parties, they're all waiting for voir dire and all waiting for their trial to begin. So there's a lot of pressure anytime jurors are checking in. So let's give them all the tools they need to facilitate this and make it an easier process. In addition to scanning in a barcode off of a jury summons, there are also alternative methods where jurors can check themselves in within the confines of a geofence or within the confines of the courthouse to let people know, hey, I'm here, and then receive information on where to go next. Unfortunately, the creating multiple panels is very, very easy. And unfortunately, this used to take a lot of time, especially if you had to configure these panels to get to different courtrooms. With automation, in just a few minutes after all your jurors are checked in, you create multiple panels and they're on their way to the courtroom.
Got it. Thank you.
This is an example of a screen. I think some of the time not necessarily utilized well in many courts is during voir dire, during jury selection. With an automated system, it's no longer necessary for the courtroom clerk to record empanelment results and then forward those results to the jury administrator to be entered or maintained. It just takes a few minutes in the courtroom. It's great to be able to have access to all of this information. You can record the empanelment results right there from the courtroom, and automatically those persons not selected are automatically sent back to the pool where they could be empaneled again or sent to another trial, or they may be dismissed for the day.
Thank you. I think we may have jumped over a topic a little bit earlier, which was qualification and information gathering. Can you share with the audience what that looks like with the jury management system?
Well, with the jury,
a little bit.
Sure. We've touched a little bit on the questionnaires, and that is just a huge time savings to not have to deal with all that paper going into voir dire. Also, prospective jurors, when they have an ability to go onto an online juror portal, they can get all of their information, and conversely, they can give their information to the court. So it's not necessary to wait weeks and weeks to hear a response back from the court on their request to be excused or disqualified or postponed. All of that information can be managed right there in an online portal where they have access to everything. Online portals can even disseminate information like orientation videos, mapping to parking structures, links to the court's website. Anything can be configured on an electronic portal, so it facilitates two-way communication. Think of it this way. Every time a prospective juror goes onto an online portal to gather information, that may be one less phone call or one less trip down to the court clerk's office. You put all of those together and it equals reduction in some of the interaction that the court clerk's office or the jury office has to have. And you're giving jurors all the prospective information they need before they get to the courthouse.
I know this has definitely helped us here in New Mexico as well. I mean, the clerk staff no longer have to wait, for return mail on information on why they're requesting an excuse or an exemption or a postponement. It's just all done through the juror portal. The court staff can then go and review on the jury system, and they can either check to deny or check to grant, and right away the system will send a text or an email to these prospective jurors saying, yes, you've been your request has been granted or it's been denied, depending on what kind of information is needed. But it's a lot quicker to get things done through that way.
I find it amazing that, especially like this one aspect right here, self-qualification and information gathering, like this piece alone just really helps both the jury administrators and the citizens, like this one big aspect. So I find that amazing. So thank you. And thank you to our backstage crew for going back to this slide. Appreciate it. So let's jump forward a little bit. Let's go back. So jury attendance and payment, Lane. What can you tell us about this?
Well, let's talk about juror attendance first. Juror attendance, unfortunately, the pandemic introduced some interesting protocols that we had to meet. So, for example, jurors would possibly be routed to a jury assembly room before the pandemic. Well, observing pandemic protocols, that was no longer an option. So by giving jurors instructions to please stay in your car and you will be contacted once you check in. They could check in from their mobile device and then they could go receive instructions on which courtroom to report to. That was a huge thing. Now, we hope those measures are never necessary again, but should they be, we and the court are now better prepared. As far as juror payment, I think we're all familiar with the model that we have to tell prospective jurors, you'll receive your check for jury service in 4 to 6 weeks. And consider how many people then call the jury staff office when week 4, 5 hits and they haven't received their check yet. In today's society, we can get immediate access to everything. So facilitate payment immediately. Jurors, using some systems, they can print their check right from the courtroom or right from the courthouse from a dedicated printer. They can also opt to pay themselves electronically through PayPal or Venmo. So it's no longer necessary to wait 4 to 6 weeks for that check to come in the mail. One more thing that they want to leave the court with, and that is a certificate of attendance. They want to be able to prove to their employer why they were off work that day. They can download and generate an attendance certificate or letter right to their mobile device, or again, from a kiosk in the courthouse, print off your jury attendance letter. So you're leaving with 2 very important things. You're leaving with your juror payment in hand and a certificate of attendance confirming that you have been to jury duty. Every single one of those things can reduce a phone call or a trip to the court clerk's office or the jury office.
Lane, did you say it typically would take before this like 4 to 6 weeks for somebody to be paid or a juror to be paid?
That's not unusual to wait that long to receive a check. Some courts have to go through their county treasurer, things like that. So it is often a time-intensive process to get that check in the mail.
So, and that probably reduces a lot of paperwork for the jury administration for the courts to have to process that, correct?
Most definitely, yes.
So, and I think you have a snippet of what that would look like a screenshot here.
I do. We talked briefly about there's a traditional method of checking in jurors, and we can use that in our application by simply scanning a barcode and the juror's record comes up. It's a little difficult to see here, but at that point of jury attendance, it's possible to find out if they are a government employee and they're not eligible to receive their jury fees, or if they want to waive their jury fees or even donate their jury fees. Mileage is automatically calculated through many different methods, most often from zip code to zip code. But all of these things are done automatically by scanning a barcode from the person's jury summons. And then, as I mentioned, allowing the jurors to check themselves in, you can have a kiosk in the courthouse. Now, don't think of a kiosk as a big piece of equipment. It could be something as simple as a couple of tablets or a couple of laptops. By allowing jurors to check themselves in, that may reduce the number of court staff that are necessary to preside over jury attendance.
Oh, so thank you for taking us through what a good system looks like and going over Avenue Jury. Now, I happen to have guilty knowledge on this next piece, that Adriana is very, very data driven. So I know reporting the feature is critical and how New Mexico is able to get the other courts to embrace change. Adriana, can you walk us through which reports that you rely on and how you use the data?
Of course. We use a lot of the utilization reports, the failure to respond and the failure to appears. We take all that into account. All those numbers are always tracked for statistical information. The other audits, we use the audits as well because it ties to money, right? So money and time and attendance are all part of our utilization to provide to the courts. when they ask for that information, as well as to our Supreme Court. And so we do a lot of the statistical reports. We use those quite a bit.
Has it helped you using that data to get the other courts who weren't as excited about the change on board?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're usually the ones that are the first to ask, how are we doing? And then the other great thing too is that this isn't only just acceptable to us at the AOC level, it is locally. They can print it out on their own as well and go over it with their own staff if they like. So it's available to all users statewide.
Lane, do you have any favorite reports in here?
Well, the utilization reports, as Adriana referred to them, they are really strategically important. Consider every juror you bring in or prospective juror you bring into the courthouse equates to a budget that equals money. Courts want to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. So utilization and keeping an eye on that, and think of it this way. Every juror that comes in and goes to the courtroom but is not serving, selected, or challenged, they just sit there all day long, they're going to walk away with a perception that perhaps their time was not as well spent as it could have been, and they still have to be paid. So utilization reports are really important for the courts, because courts want to make sure they're using taxpayer dollars wisely.
So awesome. Thank you. So we've had a good review of the technology and what technology looks like, but what does it all mean for courts and citizens? So let's dig into the benefits, the real world benefits. Adriana, you've seen a lot now that you're on the other side of implementation. Can you share what type of things you've seen improve in New Mexico?
Well, mostly and mainly is juror appearance. Right now, we don't have as many failure to appears or even responding, because there's really no reason that they were not able to respond, considering everything is done electronically and at their fingertips. They could do it through the mobile app. They can do it, at the library if they don't have a computer. I mean, even our older generation, I'm saying that as politely as I can, they typically don't have a hard time, even if it is to come to the courthouse just because they want to have that more personal interaction. We typically have a kiosk available for them to help. So the court staff will even be willing to walk them through that, to get them through the juror portal and to answer all the questions and, still have that human interaction in person. The other benefit is just the mailing and the postage. I mean, we just don't really have to deal with that as much. It is nice. We do still, initially our summons is still a paper document at this point, but it's not as much paper going out or coming back into the courthouse. And so we've really reduced time on, the postage and the mailings for the most part. And then just keeping the communication readily available to all jurors. They can just log on to the juror portal at any time during their time of service, and they can see whether they're going to be called to report or if they have any pending excusal requests that they're waiting for a response to. If they're wanting to get further information, like Lane said earlier, about a court website or, parking. What does parking look like? Do I need to have money for parking structure, or is it going to be validated? All of that we can just send through the jury system in an ad hoc message, or even through the juror portal. They click on the court site link and they have more information specific to that court that they're summoned to. It's even reduced staff. Not in a bad way. We do have a lot of courts in New Mexico are multiple clerks, right? So one day they'll be doing jury obligations, and another day they could be, part of the civil division. And so because the cross training was vast, now we could have one dedicated jury clerk and they can do everything for the most part. However, in our bigger courts, we do have actual jury divisions just because of the amount of jurors that are being summoned for their term of service. And so it's really been useful, beneficial, and just an overall great thing to have a jury system.
So we mentioned, and we touched on this a little bit earlier, that it's a big reduction in paper, at least by 30%, if not more. Mm-hmm. And you just said that it also speeds up the process. How much faster do you think the processes are right now for?
I would say it's cut in half, honestly, just because the court doesn't have to have either phone conversations with the court or with the prospective jurors, or the jurors are not waiting around to receive something in the mail. right? It's just an immediate grant text or denied text or an email, an ad hoc text message, and they're able to correspond a lot quicker.
Those are some good stats. Thank you. Lane, anything you'd like to add to that?
One thing I would like to add is reminding jurors of their service. Once they get their summons, it may be 4 to 6 weeks in advance, and people tend to forget when they're supposed to be coming in for jury duty. With a good automated system, you can send out ad hoc or automatically scheduled reminder notices. If somebody has not gone online to complete their qualification questionnaire, you can send out notices to those people. Hey, reminder, your jury duty is coming up in 2 weeks. Please complete your qualification questionnaire. Every time that happens, maybe that reduces one phone call to the court clerk or the jury staff office. So the automation of reminding jurors of their service is really important. Continuing on with that, think about snow days or days when the courthouse is not available. The ability to send out an ad hoc message the morning of or the night before that we've had a water main break and the court will not be open tomorrow. Please stay tuned for more information. That information can be available on their public portal, their qualification portal, or can be sent out in an email or a text immediately, and the jurors have that information. That reduces a lot of issues when jurors have maybe traveled in from quite a ways away. They didn't know the courthouse was going to be closed, but you have to pay them anyway. So those are all conveniences that affect both the court and the prospective jurors and just provide better public service.
It's like having technical difficulty and emailing a whole audience on the fly with a new link. So
precisely, something like that.
And so understood. Thank you. And so now that you're on the other side of implementation, Adriana, and you're using the system, what lessons learned would you like to share with the audience and things that they should consider before starting to look into doing the process? So if you had to do it all over again, what would you do?
Oh, I would definitely do things differently. Definitely always have an IT staff on board throughout the whole RFP process, the discussions initially before going into an RFP process, just what the jury division, if they are separated like ours is here in New Mexico, what the jury division's vision is, like we mentioned earlier, and how can we achieve that, but also using technology, which means you would have to include someone from your IT department, right? Because they're going to be the ones to assist you going forward and for keeping this jury management system going, right? Or updating or making sure that we're able to change things without breaking things. Or who knows this product, right? Like who can learn it and really be an expert in it. So having an IT, I would say a couple of IT, if not a whole staff, if you could, have them on board from the very beginning of the discussions all the way through the RFP process and even after. Having a dedicated IT staff, I think, is an amazing thing. It does help make things more fluid, and just if there's ever any type of situations or issues, we know who to contact that can help. Having the business experts, right? So in New Mexico, we call them SMEs, which are subject matter experts. I'm pretty sure other people use that terminology. However, for us, it was very important to have jury managers throughout the state that have done jury processes for a very long time to be a part of that discussion initially. What is it that they would like to see in a jury system? Not just from an administrative level, but the people that are working on the ground, right? Like we need they're the front runners of all of this. And so we really need their feedback and their input from the very beginning. What is it that they expect? What would be better for their courts or their communities? New Mexico we have a lot of rural towns in New Mexico and little communities. And so how can we best, relay this information with you and with your communities? Having legal staff on board from the very beginning, you start to discuss a system. Well, we know systems cost money, right? And when you have a system, that also means you go into contractuals with these systems. And so you really want your legal team to be there to understand what it is that we're asking for, what it is that we're needing, and then how can we move forward with those discussions to get those implemented. And then we just have, how do we follow up after that, right? Like once we roll out a whole statewide system to 200 users and we train them, well, how does the training process look? How many people can we have on board that can go and do these trainings, not just the 2 people that are at the jury administrative level? You know, now we have other subject matter experts that can help us and assist us in training other statewide jury staff. So just having a good, solid team in every aspect of a system is definitely needed from the very beginning.
Those are great tips to share with everyone, and that many people all across can use, regardless if they're small, medium, or large size courts. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So now we've had some questions that have come through, and I'd like to make sure we get to cover a few of these while we still have a little bit of time. So Lane, this first one is for you. What measures are taken to ensure the confidentiality and security of jurors' information within the system?
Very valid question. We have a lot of security parameters around our application, and all of that information is confidential. We often use a cloud-based system, again, very secure. But I would back up a little bit and consider when you're refilling your master jury wheel or refilling your master jury list, is it really crucial that you have a prospective juror's social security number? Is that really necessary? I know in several courts I worked with and worked for, we did not want the responsibility of keeping that information, that PII information. So it is important to understand the security parameters around the application you're installing and the technology on which it's built, but consider some of those aspects about what information do you really need from a prospective juror before you send them a jury summons.
Is it more secure using it through the system versus paper?
Oh my goodness, yes. I think we've all faced the issue of perhaps a staff member leaving quickly because of a family emergency and leaving a sheaf of papers that all contain PII and information on their desk. It's always a constant concern, especially for the court clerk's office. You're dealing with very sensitive information. You want to make sure that it's secured and make sure that your users have the appropriate security levels, just exactly what they need to access information. And really, there are going to be some positions in your office that don't need to have access to full everything. So that is important to clearly define the security user groups and what actions do they really need to have access to.
Got it. So this next question ties into that. Adriana, what sources does New Mexico use to summons jurors?
Oh, we have 3 sources. So we use our personal income tax, voter registration, and MVD in that order. So driver's licenses. New Mexico renews driver's licenses every 8 years. And with voter registration, we all know sometimes you register and you go on life and you get married or you move and you never touch back on those voter registration information. And then with personal income tax, that's our primary, just because we know New Mexico citizens who are filing taxes do it yearly. And so that is our primary source, is the personal income tax filing.
All right, thank you. Does the system accommodate jurors with disabilities or special needs?
I can answer that. Yes. It would not be appropriate for a court to ask, what is your disability? But a court can ask, do you need special accommodations? In our system, we have the ability to record that information and have it exported to a report. So when the jury administrator is putting the panel together to report the following week, they can make special arrangements if someone has to come in with a service dog or they need particular access. All of that information can be gleaned from their filling out their online questionnaire and then the appropriate action taken by the jury and the court administration.
I can also add to that, Lane, because of the report that we do utilize for ADA accommodations, we work very closely with our ADA program. And so when it comes to statistics or what kind of recommendations are being requested by prospective jurors, we give that information on a quarterly basis to our ADA department as well.
Thank you.
Important.
Speaking of standards, how does New Mexico's system align with the national standards for jury management?
We try to reach that 100%. I can't say we're there. Managing 76 courts is quite difficult, especially to get everyone on board to do things exactly how you say, or how you would like them to do it and to follow. But we always strive. We use the information from National Center of State Courts for Jury Studies. We use a lot of their tools, the manager tools, and we share that with our jury staff or jury users across the state. Anytime something new comes about on National Center of Jury Studies, we give that information to our court staff just so they can also know what they can compare their courts to, if it's not on a statewide basis, but definitely on a national basis.
Got it. And we have time for just one or two more here. What is needed if our court expands and opens a satellite office or offices? Elaine?
Nothing more than configuring an additional court location. There are certain things, letters that would go out perhaps on different letterhead. You may want different reports, but in our application, it's very simple to configure a new court location. It's not a huge burden, and you're ready to go.
And here's one more, Blaine, that I believe is for you. Our courtroom clerk won't be recording impanelment results from the courtroom. Can this still be managed after the fact?
Oh, most definitely. In our system, you can record impanelment results at any time. And you can also enter multiple days. Say you don't receive the paperwork from the courtroom for a couple of days, and Thursday you need to go back and record attendance for those jurors and those panel members. It's easy to do through a date range and can be done in just a couple of steps.
All right. And then last one, Adriana, how does New Mexico qualify its jurors?
Well, we're a one-step court here in New Mexico. So we send out the summons, and then we have go to the juror portal, and they fill out the qualification questions as well as the questionnaire questions. And then based on that, once they respond to their questionnaires, we consider them qualified unless they start to request for excuses.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That is all we have time for today. A huge, huge thank you to both Adriana and Lane for sharing your valuable insights and experiences with us today. And to our audience, thank you for your patience, first of all, and active participation and great questions. So you kept it lively, and thanks for hanging in there with our technical difficulties today. And thank you to our back crew stage that helped make all of this happen. Really appreciate you guys. We hope you found today's conversation helpful. And if you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at succeed@avenueinsights.com, or you can reach out to Lane directly, whose email is on the screen. And we'll also be sending out a link of the recording of this event if you want to review or share any input with a colleague. So thank you all once again, and have a fabulous day.